today's video I'm going to talk to you about grip pressure and its importance when we relate it to increasing your distance off the tee. Now, most players that I've met over the years are very keen and enthusiastic about the idea of hitting the ball further, and I'm sure you are too. So how can we increase our yardage by using the correct grip pressure? Well, very simply, grip pressure is very important when it relates to how much club speed we can produce through the ball. And club speed is a key element of hitting the ball further. The faster the club head is moving through impact, the further the ball will go, all other things being equal. Now, 1 mile an hour of club speed is worth effectively 2 to 3 yards distance on the floor. So if you can find 5 miles an hour more club speed in your golf swing, you're going to hit the ball 10 to 15 yards further, and that potentially is going to make a big difference out in the golf course. So grip pressure, why is it important and what should it be? Well, as we said, grip pressure is important with the driver because it relates to your ability to hinge the wrists and maintain that wrist angle through the downswing. The later we hold that wrist action, that wrist cock in the downswing, the more of a whip or release we'll create through impact. So the better the wrist angle in the downswing, the more whip and flail we create through impact, and that accelerates the club head down and through the ball. Now, if we hold the club too tightly, what happens is it becomes very difficult to hinge and set the wrist correctly because the muscles in the hands, the wrists and the forearms become very tense. The tighter we hold the club, the tighter the forearms become, the less wrist action we can create, the less flail, release we're able to create down at the ball. So the tighter the club is held, the slower the club head will travel. So what should the correct grip pressure be? Well, there's a lot of things written and spoken about grip pressure, and for me none of them are hugely accurate. They tend to be a little bit subjective. Hold the club firmly, hold the club lightly. They're not particularly accurate terms and will mean different things to different people. So I tend to use a scale from 1 to 10. Now, if we hold the club in our hands and you squeeze the club as tight as you physically can, that would be a 10 out of 10 on the grip pressure scale. Now, for me, the ideal pressure, the pressure that creates the maximum speed without being too loose and losing control of the club head, would be a 4. So if you start with the club, hold it as tight as you can, release it to half that pressure, and then just a tad lighter again. So that would score around about a 4 on the grip pressure scale, and that is the pressure where we are able to create a free wrist hinge whilst maintaining control of the golf club. So if we create the wrist hinge on the backswing, we can now release and flail the club through impact. There's the opportunity to accelerate the club without hitting the ball hard. So to help illustrate the point here, what I'm going to do is show you a couple of swings. One where I'm going to hold the club with a very high grip pressure on my pressure scale. So I'm going to grip the club at about an 8 or a 9 on that grip pressure scale. And then a swing where I'm going to hold the club at a much more correct pressure down around about that number 4 that we spoke about. We'll see what the two different swings produce in terms of a feeling of club speed, but also in terms of what that might happen to the golf ball and how the swing might look. So here would be the first swing. We're going to hold the club. We've set up with the normal grip. We build our stance. And this is now I'm going to increase the grip pressure, and perhaps you can, as I tighten my grip on the club, you might be able to see a lot of pressure at my address position. And now we have a pretty wooden, pretty stiff looking golf swing. It's not really going to do us any favours at all in terms of producing club speed and distance on the ball. So now I'm going to produce a much better grip pressure. So we build a setup, set the posture, and now we'll relax the grip pressure down to what I feel is a number 4. And a much more fluid looking swing much more wrist hinge, much freer release down at the bottom, and as far as the ball is concerned, a much more powerful, accurate trajectory. I'm going to hit that ball a lot further and a lot straighter. I hope this helps. Work on your grip pressure. It'll make a big difference to the yardage that you produce out on the course.